Oh, welcome back to Com 340 Pop Culture and Rhetoric. Today, we're going to start our discussion on memes. It's a two-part lecture, so I hope you're all excited for this, the first one, and then later this week, the sequel. We'll be talking about memes and identification. It's important to understand identification because, as Burke suggests, it's a substrate for persuasion. In other words, to have some identification with someone is a more important factor than that enables persuasion. But we'll get into all that as we go forward. First, namaste. It's important concept, namaste. It's all about identification and recognition. But again, we'll talk more about this as we move forward. Let's talk about the history of memes for a second. Yes, they're fun to look at, and a lot of different things are called memes these days, but they have a very clear and definite history. And if we want to be educated and be able to provide a good rhetorical analysis, a rhetorical critique of memes, then we need to situate ourselves in the context and the history. Origin. Where do memes come from? Well, they don't just start on the internet, right? The term meme is coined in 1976 by Dawkins. It was part of evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary psychology itself is still a controversial field, but Dawkins defines a meme as an element of a culture or system of behavior that may be considered to be passed from one individual to another by non genetic means, especially imitation. So, what that means, it's the kernel or a kernel of culture that's passed along that people know without it being passed down genetically. In other words, the things that we do culturally that are essentially ubiquitous, that are all over the place, that we just sort of pick up as a bit of information. And there are plenty of examples of that. For instance, we have handshakes, right? Saying happy birthday, saying bless you when someone sneezes. All of these things are super common in our society, but it's hard to identify why we do them or why we keep teaching people to do them, but we do continue them, right? And because they continue, because it's something that we keep passing down, it would count as a meme, a little, like I said, a bit of culture that we keep doing. But memes happen in real life, right? We get these memes that exist as we understand them today that have happened in the real world, and we need to explore some of those things. So, even image and text based memes predate the internet. And by that, I mean we have these bits of information that we pass down, that we repeat over and over again. Um, and we've been doing it for a very long time, since before the internet was even invented. And under that definition, then, it just becomes a humorous image, video, piece of text, etc., that is copied, often with slight variations, and spread rapidly. The idea of going viral or being spread rapidly, much like memes, predates the internet. And so when we understand things like virality, we're still looking at rhetorical processes that have existed for way longer than quote unquote traditional, or what we might look at as traditional memes. And we have some examples. For instance, this is Kilroy, right? Kilroy was a popular meme in Vietnam, but dating back to all the way potentially to World War One. I believe people would see this, and anywhere that American soldiers had been through, you would see this drawn as sort of like an indication that American soldiers had been there, sort of like a graffiti meme. We also have Frodo Lives. This got very popular in the late 60s, early 70s as sort of a countercultural thing. Um, Lord of the Rings had sort of a resurgence at the time, and Frodo became sort of like an anti authority hero a little bit. The idea that, stick with it and do what you can. But people would very commonly write Frodo lives like they write graffiti today. And so that was definitely a real life meme. And then Where's the Beef um, became a meme and famously used by uh, George H.W. Bush in his bid for the presidency. But it started as a commercial, right? A commercial, I think, from Wendy's, advertising that they had enough beef to fill their buns. And so, where's the beef becomes this sort of like meme asking, where's the substance, right? Where's the point? Where's the beef? Virality. We've discussed this before, but it's important to bring this back up that we have an idea of how and why things go viral, but we don't know for sure. But again, as best as we know, they are compact messages that go viral. They are instantly legible. In other words, you don't have to do a lot of thinking to understand them. Uh, and then they're shareable. And if you got these three things, then you're setting yourself up well to go viral. And also, these three things sort of set the stage for what a meme is, whether it's like a video clip or a person or an image macro, or now most commonly just screenshots of tweets or like Tumblr comments. They're all they regardless of how the meme works, right? Whether we're looking at Star Wars Kid or trends on TikTok, it shares these three things, right? It's compact, you get it quickly, and you can share it. And if you don't have those three things, it's going to be much more difficult for things to spread. This is also why sort of news is the way it is these days, because it goes for these three things. It's much easier for a headline to go viral than it is for the actual story to go viral. And I like to think of memes as we see them today, right? Where it's sort of a template that's in search for of content as a traveling punchline or a punchline in search of a joke. The images themselves, right? Whether they're screenshots, um, whatever the case is, a still from a show, the image functions as the punchline, right? We get the reaction, we get the turn or the surprise, but the thing that makes it funny is the user generated captions or the small changes that people make to set in the setup that the image provides the punchline for. The result of meme then is both familiar and novel. It's familiar in the fact that we know the image, right? We know the punchline, we get the joke, but the novelness comes from the different setups to that joke, which is particularly interesting because when you think of humor, you don't tend to think that everyone knows the punchline first, but when it comes to memes, when it comes to trends, we sort of get it, and then the way that you use it, the way that you adapt it to different situations and different setups is really where the artistry and the craft comes in at that point. And the reason that's important is because it keeps us looking at memes, right? Because it's both familiar, because it's both something that we're used to, and because it's novel as well, has new parts to it. We both feel comfortable and feel like we're discovering things when we're going through a lot of memes. And so we can binge memes because of they're funny, of course, but we also know what to expect and are still surprised. And so it's a unique type of interaction that we have with memes. And of course, one of the reasons so many exist is that they're endlessly repeatable. Memes definitely have life cycles, right? Spans, times where they're relevant and not relevant. But as long as you can keep thinking of setups, they're pretty easy to create, pretty easy to share, and people can keep consuming them, right? And so if you're able to keep a meme relevant, then you could look at the same template, the same format for hours and hours and hours. Okay, so now here are some current ish memes that fit our definition, things that we can look at that serve as a decent example of sort of what a meme is in 2020. Um, First, We saw a lot of these, right? Um, Over the summer. Nature is healing, we are the virus, and it's an image of Jurassic Park. That's funny. I think that's funny. You get the surprise, right? The surprise is the use of Jurassic Park to show that nature is healing, but the punchline that nature is healing is the thing that's sort of endlessly repeatable here. Here we have this fun meme, right? The different pictures for the different the attitudes or tones that are different um, social media accounts can have. This was actually released onto Dolly Parton's Instagram, but sort of late in this sort of memes lifetime. So it was really interesting to see this sort of catch fire and get really popular. This is an interesting one, a comment type meme. If corals get stressed, they die. So if I was coral, I would be dead. What do coral even get stressed about? Current events. I see. Just very punny for you. This one, right? There's a lot of Gen Z humor is focused on depression and sort of like giving up. There's a darkness to the humor there. This is an example of that, right? For Lent, I'm just giving up, right? Lent being the 40-day period before Easter, which in the Catholic faith, you give something up. And for this, they're just giving up. Okay, cool. So what, right? You've shown us some memes. We've talked about memes for a little bit. Why is it important? Well, they're persuasion, right? Aren't they? Don't memes count as persuasion? And if we're being broad about it, do they impact our attitude, behavior, or belief? Sure, absolutely. Our behavior, they can keep us looking for more. We laugh at them. They impact us, absolutely. Um, yeah, I think it definitely counts. And for influencers making money on social media, memes are a way to make a living and then as such become a commercial product. And if they're a commercial product, if there's something that people stake their reputation or career on, then they are certainly rhetorical. Um, there, if they there is a method to creating them, right, and a method to understanding them, then we've certainly got something that's rhetorical. We've got something that's persuasive because we're manipulating meaning for certain causes, right? We want to have a specific effect, and we're manipulating artifacts, we're manipulating signs and symbols to try to get that desired artifact. And at its core, that is exactly what persuasion is all about, and that is exactly what rhetoric seeks to study, is that process and how it happens. And so do memes participate in it? Absolutely. Here is a clip from the Big Bang Theory. We're not going to watch it today. That will start our next part of this lesson. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. We'll be talking about a sort of an AGD sitcoms without their laugh tracks. It's just sort of a heads up. But memes are persuasive, absolutely, and we can get as in-depth with them as we want to. And we will have the rest of this lecture later this week. Thank you, and you'll be hearing from me then.